We've won the Carabao Cup. Are we hungry for more? Will Newcastle United carry the momentum after the international break, carry the momentum in the last 10 games and get ourselves qualified into the Champions League? And lots and lots of transfer news. We're going to be talking about some of those players with our special guest, Mitch. And we are going to be talking all things Newcastle right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks. All right. I've had my computer's freezing in front of me. I don't know what was going on, guys. Apologies. Everything froze, but everything's working now. So if you saw me just pause there and stop, it was just some crazy technical stuff. Anyway, guys, lots and lots of news, lots to discuss. Want to introduce my guest right now straight away because we've got so much content to talk about. Mitch, let me get you onto the show. Everything's paused again. Everything's frozen again on my screen. Goodness.
Can you hear me? You got me.
Have I got you? Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm here, bro.
Right in front of my screen, everything is frozen. It's just so frustrating. But you guys can hear me, everything as well?
Yeah, all good. We can hear you loud and clear, man.
Okay, brilliant. Great to have you on, sir. Let the folks know who you are, and all about your pod. I know you've got your own podcast as well. So before we kick things off, introduce yourself, sir.
Well, I'm Mitch, fellow Newcastle fan. I'm from a pod called Where's the Owl Sleep, and we show normally on 9 p.m. Sunday evening. There's a few of us on there. We'll try and find a little niche conversation about football to roll out each week. And at the minute, we're just trying to grab a bit of traction, to be honest.
Yeah, aren't we all? Yeah. Well, evening to you, sir. Like I said, we've got plenty to discuss on today. I don't know if we're going to be able to fit on all the content, but we'll see how we go. Already got folks in the chat. I want to acknowledge the folks in the chat. Lee, God bless you. Good to see you, sir. Hi, buddy. Hi to you, sir, guys. Guys, if you see my face looking curious and weird, it's because literally it's all that this tech stuff going off here at the moment. I don't know if it's YouTube. I don't know if it's me. But the main thing is that you guys here are right now. Aaron Cave, good Mr. Consistency. Good to see you, sir. Hope everything is well with you. Good evening to you, Philip. Good evening to you. And Aaron also wishes good evening to Mitch as well. Thank you guys for the warm welcome. Right, let's kick things off. And I was thinking about how I'm gonna introduce this because obviously the thumbnail title is all about strike while the iron is hot. And I had this thought, and it came on the back of an interview that I saw with Simon Jordan and on Talk Sport TV. So I'm going to break it up in two. Let me take this bit off first because I want to. It's kind of split in two because the main thing was I'm going to ask folks because it's going to be he's going to say some stuff where you might think, I don't like the stuff that he said about the League Cup, but it's more to do with the. I think in terms of Newcastle's next steps, I'm going to focus in on that kind of thing and what I'm kind of what I want to get out of it. So let me make sure you guys can see that. Can you guys see the screen there? Mitch, can you see the screen?
It's loading at the minute. Yep, good. Got it.
Lovely. So I want to catch the end of this, but it's kind of split in two. So there's the first couple comments. So about 5 or 6 seconds in this part of the show, and then there's like I'm going to fast forward it a couple minutes later what he says. I want to add context to this because he's going to come off as well. Okay, this is my impression of it. He's going to come off as almost like downplaying the trophy, downplaying Newcastle, Eddie Howe a little bit, and the celebrations and stuff like that. But I don't know if anybody's seen this video before. I encourage you to see it. My impression of it is that it's more to do with his dynamic with Martin Keown, because Martin Keown is is obviously like he's kind of saying, you have to come and celebrate with them. You have to come and celebrate with them, like everybody else. And Simon Jordan's response is more to Martin Keown around, well, no, I'm not a Newcastle fan. Like I'm happy for them, but I'm not going to be like pulled into it and be like, oh yeah, I'm overjoyed as if I'm a Newcastle fan, which is fair enough. So that's my impression of it as to why he's a little bit, I don't know what the word is, a bit frizzly towards it. But the main thing I want to catch is about where Newcastle going from here, short term, medium term, long term. And we'll talk about that for the next 10, 15 minutes before we also go into talk about the players that Newcastle have been linked to. As you guys know, we've had Dean Huijsen again mentioned. We've had Nathan Collins from Brentford mentioned. Today we've had, and we're going to compare them, guys, if we get the time to, hopefully, but because I want to first compare some of the forwards that we've been linked to, which is Francisco Trincao from Sporting Lisbon, and there was another gentleman that was talking about Justin Kluivert from Bournemouth has been also named as a person that Newcastle linked with, and I'm going to compare those guys, comparing them with Harvey Barnes and comparing them with Jacob Murphy. Are they an upgrade? Are they not an upgrade? I want to get you guys' views, but first, without further ado, let's just get some of this of what this content here from TalkSport and this conversation between Simon Jordan, Jim White, and Martin Keown.
From a dressing room point of view, Martin, how transformative is that first trophy?
Oh yeah,
get your hands on it at last.
Yeah, but there's generations of players that have not, gone up those steps, those famous steps at Wembley and being successful.
Let me actually rewind that bit. It's a bit just before that.
They've got some silverware and they deserve it.
Yes, absolutely. From a dressing room point of view, Martin, how transformative?
Just a little bit more. Let me get that.
The Newcastle will not win the Premier League anytime soon. And I don't mean that mean-spiritedly. It's wonderful they won a League Cup. They won the same cup that Luton, Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham and Swansea have won. So let's get things into context.
Right. So I just want to pause on that before we go forward. The first part is obviously around Newcastle not winning the Premier League anytime soon. And then he goes on to say that this is the trophy that Swansea and essentially Swansea and I forgot who we mentioned, another kind of team that's not
Birmingham and something like that. He said, wasn't it?
Exactly. So he's kind of indicating, well, he is indicating from that is, well, really small teams have won that. Like it's not that big a deal. I suspect this is on the back of, if you guys watched the interview prior to that, is a situation with Martin Keown, because I'm going to show a slide to you, guys, in a moment. But I guess I want to first show the next part of this interview, because the slide I'm going to show you guys shows the last winners for the last 10 years, obviously including Newcastle. But those other winners include Man City, Liverpool, and Man United. So it's not Swansea's, Luton's that are winning it no more. It's literally the upper echelons of the Premier League that are winning it. But the main thing I wanted to get to is the Premier League moving forward, where Newcastle go from here. So I want you guys to keep in mind what Simon Jordan said at the beginning around Newcastle and Premier League trophy and everything else. So let's progress from there a little bit more, because they do touch on that a little bit further. So they just had the interview with Bruno Gomes, and they jump on from there.
And he's done just that. So Simon, the first win out of this under the Saudi ownership, is it going to be the first of many, do you think?
Okay, so it's the first win under the Saudi ownership. Are we going to see the first of many? So he's about to comment on that. Mitch, I'm going to get your take on this going forward. Let's see what he says. Let's see what Simon says here.
Again, for me, it always reverberates around the governance of the game. They've won the League Cup. That is a massive piece of silverware for them to win. As a former Crystal Palace owner, I would look at that. Winning the League Cup is wonderful, but as a big club, they want to win Premier Leagues, they want to win Champions Leagues and FA Cups. So it is the runt of the litter of things that you can win, with all due respect. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. Will it build? Can they build from it? Well, it's better to win something and build from that than won nothing. But again, the argument reverberates. How are they going to do it? How are they going to be able to catch Liverpool and Manchester City and Arsenal and Chelsea and whoever else, and Manchester United with their turnovers? Right now, Man United are having them the moment out of the sun. But how are Newcastle going to go from £350 million turnover to 600 or 700 million to be able to compete when it comes on top to win a domestic title. I know Leicester can be used as an outlier, but the reasons why Leicester can be used as an outlier is because they're the only outlier, really,
Right.
In 33 years of Premier League history.
Yeah.
And so with all that in mind, I would like to think that clubs like Newcastle can get an opportunity to dine at the top table and come away with the silverware rather than just being a participant.
All right. So, Mitch, chat. A lot there. There's a lot to take from there. There's a lot to take from there. Let me get your thoughts, Mitch. Let me get your thoughts on. Simon asked the questions in terms of how did Newcastle go on from here, going from winning the league title, the league cup, and how are they going to go about essentially winning Premier Leagues, winning Champions Leagues, or whatnot. What's your immediate thoughts like on that question, and I guess winning the League Cup, what it means in the short term, i.e. the next 10 games, getting to the Champions League and everything else, and maybe a little bit on the long term. Well, just give me your general thoughts on what obviously we just heard as well.
So short term, I reckon that gives us a boost going into the last 10 games of the season, because that's going to lift everybody in the dressing room. The fans, every home game are going to be bouncing all the way through. The away fans are going to be better. The whole city's going to be bouncing. Like going forward, how do we catch the top teams? Job number one, keep everybody we want to keep. Job number two, clear away the players that we don't want to keep that we can get a little bit of money for. And then job number three is to reinvest what we can and reinvest it well. The way we're going to do this to catch the top teams quicker is to cut down the mistakes. Because if you look at the teams that everybody's saying are the bigger teams, the big six, the guys with loads of money, they make loads of transfer mistakes.
Yes.
Since the Saudis have come in, if anybody looked at the players we'd brought in first team ready, or even some of the youngers like Hall or Livramento, we barely make mistakes at the minute. If we can keep that going, we close that gap quickly and very quickly, because we already have. The Saudis took over. We were relegation fodder. Like, we were down.
Yes.
We were down. Everybody thought we were going. I was nearly thinking we were going. And then John Joe Shelby scores a winner at Leeds.
Yeah.
And everything turns from there. And we've been doing it for what, 2.5 years now? We haven't spent properly for free windows. If we keep doing good business, the gap closes very quickly, because the top clubs, as much as they're in a better place than we are now, or the club, well, I say the top clubs, the clubs that can spend more money than us, they don't do business as well as we do. And that is a simple fact when you just look at it. Every single big money buyer, the only one that you could potentially say hasn't fulfilled his price tag yet is Harvey Barnes. But Harvey Barnes has still had moments. He's had West Ham off the bench where he won us the game. He's had a couple of other moments where he's got winners or got an assist for a winner. While he's been for us, he's just been unfortunate with injuries, and also unfortunate that Anthony Gordon has been excellent, who also plays on the left.
Exactly. And so go on.
So that's basically the way we do it. The first bit is like the whole thing. He's kind of belittling the League Cup. His point about Swansea and Birmingham and teams like that might have been valid 10 years ago, but that was the Johnson's Paint revamp. And I know this is a little bit off-piste, but Premier League clubs couldn't put their youth teams in that cup before. So the top 4, 5, 6 played their youth team in the League Cup. They don't anymore. Their youth teams play in the Johnson's Paint. Anyone who wants to belittle us winning this League Cup, we beat a full strength Liverpool in the final. We beat a full strength. They might not have had, and by full strength, I mean players available at the time of the game. We beat a full strength Arsenal twice over 2 legs.
Yes.
We beat Brentford, who, from my memory, were not full strength, but they were close.
Yeah.
MK Dons is the only non-Premier League team we've played. Chelsea, yes, they made loads of changes, and we beat Forest away. So we beat the top 3.
Yeah.
At the semi-final and the final, who are the top 2 in the league right now. They played the strongest team they possibly could in those games. And
I'll add, even with the Chelsea game, people forget we made 5 changes in that game as well. So it's not like just Newcastle. Regardless of that, and I agree with everything you're saying, Mitch. I think there's a little bit of I like to think a little bit of jealousy
There will be.
You know, so which goes with the territory, and fair enough. Now, before I'll go into the next part, and I've got a few people, lots of messages in the chat, so we'll go on to there as well. But you make excellent points there, Mitch. Exactly, and we've got to continue making the correct decisions, which I think we are, because even when we're getting, yes, we make good profile decisions in terms of the players that we've brought in terms of transfers, but as Paul Mitchell said, it wasn't fit for purpose, not because of the talent ID of the players, but because of we nearly breached PSR because of the way we were doing it. And so I think we're going to shift how we're doing it. So that's one mistake that we will now rectifying. Then there came the injuries and not understanding or not experiencing Champions League and all of that and everything that came with it. How we need a proper way of, for instance, managing injuries or preventing injuries. Hence, James Bunt's come in, and people who have been on the show before know how we've got very limited squad rotation. So we've been very, very fortunate to keep the injuries down to the point that we have at the moment. Obviously, I know Lewis Hall is out for the season, Sven Botman, but Sven Botman's a lingering injury from previous season. And really, Lewis Hall is because Matt Targett's not been good enough, and we haven't been able to rotate. My point is, every time we make mistakes, it's a growing pain, if I can put it that way, where we've made it and we've done something to fix it and to help it. And now we've done it with our PSR. We're in a very good position financially to be able to go forward. I expect, and people have seen the previous show, is Newcastle. I obviously, we're keeping a very close eye, and we're going to talk about players in a moment, about the players we'll bring in, but I'm also keeping a close eye on the sales. So I'm expecting sales at the same time to make sure we're there. But we've got chats. Liam knows, always a blessing to see you, sir. Always, even on the Spurs Rival show as well, supporting the Toon, supporting all the guys that are repping the Toon. Liam knows only opinion matters is our own. Go crazy analyzing every Dick and Harry's trigger traps. I agree, Mitch, and people gotta. Myself and folks gotta. These things are gonna keep on coming. The more Newcastle are successful. You know,
I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm loving it. I'm loving all of it because 4 or 5 years ago, no one cared. Like we weren't in the conversation. If we went on one of these 4 or 5 years ago while we were fighting relegation, everybody would have been like, they're still rubbish. But they know now, and I've been telling people for years, you can mock me while your team's above me now. But we're on an upward curve, and it's going to take something massive to stop that upward curve. So just wait it out. If it takes us 5 years, if it takes us 10 years, that upward curve will go as quickly as we're allowed to go. If the shackles are released, it goes rocket. If they're not, we'll slowly build and grow, and grow, and we're a problem. And anybody who didn't think of us before now see we're a problem.
Exactly, and the goalposts are always going to shift because they laughed when we employed Eddie Howe. Then we've employed him. We got us a relegation, got us in the Champions League, and they said, but he's never going to get you over the line. He's never going to get you a trophy. He's now won the trophy, and now the narrative is, but you're never going to win the Premier League. So once we do win the Premier League, but you can't hold it. go win something. It's going to shift every time.
I've had all of them. It's like he can't set up a defense. We qualify for the Champions League with the second best defense in the league?
Yes.
Oh yeah, but then he's tactically inept and stuff like that. The semi-final against Arsenal, where we played 5-3-2, basically trapped one of their midfielders for most of the game. That's not tactically inept. That's pure genius. He tweaks things that
even the final,
after week in, week out, you won't notice them because you still see a base formation when we haven't got the ball. And base positions where normally we have, but there's so many little nuances to what he does. He's brilliant. He's a genius.
Exactly. Even the final, even the Liverpool final. Yeah. All right. So, Jordy Z, good to see you. I've been thinking about you. I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you, sir. God bless you. Good evening to you as well. Aaron Kane, I think the gap between us and the top isn't as astronomical as people say it is. I agree with that. We are really 4 players away from sustaining a title challenge, in my opinion.
I think that's first team wise. Where I would say we're probably more 8-9 away from sustaining a title challenge while we're in Europe. But over half of those are squad players that you only really want to play 8-9 games a season, 10 games a season, and stuff like that. That's our problem. We've got class throughout the first team. There are a couple of players that most people would want to upgrade, but then below that, some of the drop-offs are massive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also going to take an upgrade in our academy. For instance, Liverpool current squad's got 7 academy players. That's insane, obviously. So I want and they play a big major. It's not guys that are just like, playing 200 minutes a season. You got your Conor Bradley's, obviously Trent Alexander speaks for himself, all those type of guys. So, and that adds to the sustainability that you're talking about, Mitch, is obviously being able to perform on every level of competition. Yes, you can bring in players, but if you've got your own academy players, that takes less pressure on the financial aspect. But you've also got players that are going to be with you for the long haul because they're from your club.
And even the ones that won't make it here, sell them on for a bit of money where they can try and make it somewhere else. Like
exactly
into our plans, we can actually make money off the back of our academy. We've never done that. No. The only player I remember coming through our academy we got big money for was Andy Carroll. No one wanted him to leave.
Yeah, and without Elliot Anderson as well.
Oh, well, Elliot Anderson's a recent one.
And that was forced. With nobody wanted that.
We had to do it or get a points deduction.
Man. Liam, and I think he deserves a standing ovation for that one. He didn't want to go. We didn't want him to go. And
did you see him in the crowd?
No, was he there? No.
Sunday, the players walked over to him and he was clapping, jumping, everything. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. It was on X somewhere. I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
I would love that. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Liam Knowles on a parade. Jordan said, will they get ridiculed? Yes. Should they do it? Absolutely. Nobody else matters. Only us and how we feel. Exactly. I truly agree with that. Yeah. Celebration police is an insane thing, and I think I'm gonna end up taking this thing all over. But it's sad. People just suck the life out of the game when they just, the only thing is if it's Champions League or Premier, which are important, which I'll be incredible to win. But football is also about winning, but also about fun, like entertainment, and winning and all of this stuff. So come on now. Aaron Kane, Yassir lifted the cup. Yes, he did. And said it's the first of many trophies. His presence was very impactful in Arsenal. I agree. I don't know if you saw the was it the Telegraph? I don't want to say it's the Telegraph. Who was it that said, I don't know if you saw the journalist that said how he found it a bit jarring, that the owner was there. And I was like, because, it should be more. If it was the other guys, essentially like English owners, essentially, then they'll be okay. But Saudi's got this dark shadow and I'm like, bro, you don't remember our stadium was called Sports Direct. You don't remember our players having to use wheelie bins as their hydrotherapy pools. You don't remember that Newcastle have been relegated twice under the ownership of Mr. Mike Ashley. And it goes on and on and on. Nobody was saying dark clouds then. The media wasn't saying dark clouds then, were they? Anyway, Liam knows. Hate to say it, Aaron, we're still... you're talking to Aaron. We're still miles away. We have to double our revenue again to get close. We'll see. Spurs Kings TV. Big up. Yes. NUFC legends. All right. So I'm still rushing through because I got tons of stuff. Maybe I need to just... All right, Liam Knowles, pains me to say it, but Liverpool had to sell stars as the right time to fund long-term growth. They did. Coutinho springs to mind, and I don't know if Liam, you're echoing or you're predicting possibly a big sell in the summer. I don't know about how you feel about it, Mitch. Are you ready? Should the big sell come? If we were to sell someone big this summer, are you? How do I say? When I say ready, are you? Are you kind of like it's part of the game? It could happen.
For me, yeah, this is so. I think there will be one big sale, but for me, there's a group of players that are off limits. So yeah, everybody will think Newcastle big sale will either be Bruno, Tonali, or Isak. Won't be any of them. It won't be Joe Linton. It won't be Botman. It won't be Lewis Hall. It won't be Tino Livramento. But it might be someone like Anthony Gordon, or it might be a Harvey Barnes. which would be a big setup because we'd get big money for him.
Mm-hmm.
And as brilliant as Gordon's been for us, I feel that with Barnes ready to step in, and if the money can be spent well elsewhere, as much as it would annoy me and frustrate me, we've had to do it. It's one I can accept. If the jewels in the crown, as I call them, which is the spine of our team, Isak, Tonali, Bruno, Botman, don't want to see any of them go no matter what the money is. I'm adding Lewis Hall to that conversation now as well this season. Them five, as long as them five stay, I reckon if the money's spent well, it's done for the right reasons. You can't replace any of them five, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I trust that it would be spent rightly because, like you said earlier, we've got a really good, we've got an excellent transfer record under this ownership so far.
100%.
So I trust that. I just saw all the comments, guys. I don't know if it's because Mitch is here, but I know it's not just because Mitch is here. You guys have been absolutely amazing with your chats, and I'm so keen to show you guys some of the players that we're linked with and do that. I know it's going to take a little bit of time, so I am pushing a bit ahead. But just lastly on this subject around League Cup, Champions League, I wanted to point out, and the reason being for this is because I had an interesting thought, which was whether winning this League Cup, and I'll let you answer this in a moment, Mitch, and the chat as well, whether winning the League Cup and keeping in mind the next 10 games, and obviously the aim being winning Champions League, even we saw the interview today with Isak winning the Champions League, will the League Cup essentially, going back to striking one irons hot, will it propel us this season for the next 10 games to, up our performances and make sure we qualify for the Champions League? Or is there a concern that we will rest on our laurels and maybe let the season drift away? Before I let you answer that, Mitch, and the chat as well, do chime in on this. I want to point this out. Is that in the winners of the League Cup from the last 10 years, as you guys can see, as I pointed out earlier, obviously ourselves now, but Liverpool, Man United, Man City are the other three. Doesn't sound like Luton and Swansea to me. The other thing I wanted to point out about that is, speaking of what we talked about earlier around whether we let the season fizzle out or we use it to propel us to gain Champions League. Want to point out this: when Liverpool won it last year, of all those 10 teams that we've showed, when Liverpool won it last year, they were in first. Obviously, they ended up finished third. When Man United won it, when they beat us that season, they were third when they played us in February. They finished third that season as well. Liverpool in 22, when they won it, they were second when they won it. They finished second. Man City in 2021, when they won it, they were first at the time of winning it, and they finished first as well. Again, Man City, because Man City won it 4 times in a row. And I don't mind if Newcastle do that, by the way. I think we should do a parade every time. In 2020, when Man City won it, they were second. They finished that season second. And again, in 2019, they were second when they won it in February. And they finished second as well, a point behind Liverpool. Oh, no, sorry. They finished final league position. They finished first. Excuse me. They finished first. Man City, again, the previous season when they won it, they were first, and they finished that season Centurions first again. 2017, when Man United won it, they were sixth when they came in. They finished sixth. Man City, when they won it, the 2016, were fourth in February, and they ended up being fourth final league position. So it's to say this, Mitch, essentially, predominantly, most teams either stay the same in league position or go up a place or two, rather than it as kind of letting the season peter out. So nobody, most teams that started off second or third or fourth or whatever when they won the League Cup in February either stayed there or went up, rather than drifting back into fifth or sixth or whatnot. So my question is essentially Man City and Liverpool often won the League Cup while in the top four, frequently finishing the season in the similar or better positions. There's a variation with Man United, but that's Man United have been very up and down this season. My thing is, what's your thoughts? Like, before we move on from this section, what's your gut telling you? What's your instincts telling you? are Newcastle going to let the season peter out, or do you think we're going to use the momentum of the League Cup win to get us over the line and get us into that Champions League spot this season?
I think we've got a team set up now just to use it as momentum. And the fall off thing that people go about after winning the League Cup is such an old school narrative that used to happen years ago. And it was a thing. And it was a thing when I was in my 20s, which is a long time ago now. It hasn't been a thing for ages.
Me
so I don't know
too.
why people going But I've just watched Italy versus Germany. And if Benali's going to step off the pace, he surely didn't show it tonight. And he won the League Cup 4 or 5 days ago. Newcastle fans still haven't recovered, and he's scored and putting in special performances on that. So if it's going to happen, then the first player I've watched play since it's happened definitely isn't going to show it. And with players like Bruno in and around him, Joe Linton doesn't know how to play at anything other than full warrior mode. So we're going to fall off. All these players are playing the Champions League as well. So people say to me, if you don't get Champions League, Isak will leave. Why? He's involved in this team. We've just won a cup now. I reckon, I've been saying this for all season when people say you have to get Champions League this season to keep it. This year, it was get Europe, back into Europe. Next season, if at the end of next season we're not in the Champions League, that is when I would half expect Isak to then sort of start thinking it might be time to move on. But I don't think there's any chance of it this summer. And I think all of them are going to push on to try and claim that Champions League spot.
100%. Even Isak was talking about it when he was the Sweden squad. And you can just imagine whether it's Joe Linton, Isak Tonali, walking into the international squads, the other players recognizing, because this win, this is a historic win that went around the world saying, well done. And they're coming into their squads as winners, and they want to carry on that feeling. They know they're part of a true. They know that the whole team, the whole club now know, hey, no, we can win. And not only we didn't just like scrape over the line, had our goal peppered and stuff like that. You asked Arsenal how many shots on target they had against us in the 2 games that we played them. Ask them.
Add the league game into it. We might as well too. Add the Arsenal league game as well. Played them 3 times this season, and we've scored more goals against them than they've had shots on target against us. Exactly.
So it's, when I keep on saying in the chat, we'll know, act like we belong, because we do belong. We're good enough. That's the main thing I want to say. So big up. So got a few chats there before we move on to the players and the player profiles, but excellent. I wanted to shout out to Onaya. Good to see you, sir. Don't you guys find it difficult to judge academy prospects? Or just I won't spend too long, but I'll just say yes. And I'm looking for people that watch them a lot more often. That's definitely trying to do that. Absolutely. Bobby Fairview, God bless you. Always good to see. As always, I forget. I think it's Chelsea you support. I hope I didn't get that wrong. I think it's Chelsea you support. But bless up, big up the chat. Bless up to you, sir. Good to see you. Peter and NUFC, big sponsorships coming too, I suspect. Yes. And you can only imagine that, look, this is historic stuff that Newcastle are doing. You can't underestimate winning a trophy for the first time in 70 years. If you're, Adidas must be thinking they're lucky stars that they've put themselves behind us again. Yes, this is a team that's going places. This is a team that's worth, being behind. And absolutely. On that
sponsorship one, it might be it's slightly off topic, so I won't go on for long. But I think the owners are playing 4D chess with that, because they know that there's potential changes coming that will completely change what sponsorship deals we can get. So they're just holding fire on so many things until they know exactly where the land's going to lie.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think, especially if you're in Europe, if you're winning trophies, you don't want to hedge all your bets in Puma, for instance, where you are right now, just because you're trying to get a player over the line. That's exactly. And they had that rough experience with I forgot a betting company. You see, that's how I put the trauma behind me that I can't even remember who was it.
3-6 bet or something like that.
Funny. That's how I put the trauma behind me that I can't even remember those guys. But we were stuck with them. We were stuck with, is it Castro? Not Castro. What was that?
Castor.
Castor.
Yeah.
We were stuck with them for ages.
Them
And they
silly
said-
Mike Ashley contracts that they had.
Again, exactly. And this is again an exampleship of the owners learning from saying, no, we're not doing this stuff again. Like, that's insane. We're not going to be doing that again. Brilliant. All right, so absolutely, we're going to hit momentum. I agree with you, Mitch, that I reckon we're going to winning this League Cup. That home game against Brentford that's coming up after the international break. If I was Brent, I wouldn't want to be there, because that's going to be the first time since the win. All the fans are going to be there. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely momentous. So,
It's an
guys,
evening game as well, isn't it?
I'm sorry, sir?
It's an evening game as well, I believe.
It's an evening game. You know what it is. You know what's going to happen after the parade and everything. You know what's going. You know what's going to happen. Look, they're going to be hungry for more. Like winning. They're going to be hungry for more. I totally agree with this. Right. So we've had a lot of. I don't know about you, Mitch, but whenever I'm putting this stuff together in terms of like the show and everything else, I'm like, I was cruising today. I thought, yeah, I know I'm going to be talking about with Mitch. We've got the League Cup, Champions League. There's maybe just one or two transfers. But then, like, we just had a flood of transfer dealings coming in and stuff like that. And I've got to do all these player profiles. Whether I'm going to be able to discuss them or not, I don't know. But it was fun putting it together. Let me start. Let's get on with it. Chat, let me know what you think, because it's all about, again, like striking while the iron's hot. We've talked about, winning this League Cup and how it's going to be going to give us the momentum, generate the momentum to qualify for the Champions League. But also, I think there's a lot of early movement going on in the transfer market. Already, people are already getting bought. I don't know how it's happening. Only Chelsea already bought players, But we've already been linked. Craig Hope already says that. He doesn't want to put himself out on the limb too much, but he's pretty much put James Trafford. He'll be surprised that if James Trafford isn't there. So, for instance, we're already knocking on doors. So that's what brought me to the first of the. I'm going to look at the attack line first. Hopefully, I can get to the defense as well. But today we were linked to Mr. Out of all the Bournemouth players, I might by half of Bournemouth at this stage, but I had an interesting link to Justin Kluivert. And this comes from the Geordie Boot Boys, but there was also another article, James Rutherford, but I think there was another article as well. Anyway, essentially, what James Rutherford is saying is that Newcastle discussed Kluivert transfer. And I want to say, if I get it wrong, I don't want to say the journalist name, but listen and get it wrong. But it says that could lead Eddie Howe to his former club Bournemouth as Newcastle target Justin Kluivert. The Dutchman has been linked to the move to St. James's Park, and new details regarding the Magpies' interest have emerged. And obviously, that's a picture of him after he scored 3 goals at our stadium. So this is it. So according to Telegraph's Luke Edwards, Newcastle United team have spoken about Kluivert. Oh, that's it. That is it. It isn't. So James Rutherford, obviously from Geordie Boot Boys, but why I mentioned Justin Kluivert is Luke Edwards, tier 1, in my opinion, tier 1 journalist for the Telegraph. So according to Telegraph's Luke Edwards, Newcastle's recruitment team have spoken about Kluivert a lot during the initial transfer meetings, and I think there's a quote from Luke Edwards where he says that he wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle were to bid for Kluivert, which is, I'll ask in a moment about that, Mitch. If we read between the lines, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle bid for him. Is enough, what your thoughts are about that. So Edwards adds that he, as he says here, he would not be surprised if the Magpies bid to sign a 25-year-old from Bournemouth. And they just got a little bit here about where Newcastle fit, where Kluivert would fit with Newcastle, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So I'll skip that part. But Mitch, chat, let me know your initial thoughts about Justin Kluivert. I'm gonna take off this screen and then begin talking about. But when you first heard about it, I don't know when you have first heard about it. But what's your initial thoughts about Justin Kluivert to Newcastle?
I think he's a fabulous little player, but he just doesn't seem like one that would fit into what we're doing. It would need a bit of a system switch for us to get the best out of him, I think, because for me, the one spot we should be looking at is Jacob Murphy's spot. Love Jacob Murphy to bits. He brings great energy to the squad. His GA this season's been fantastic as well. But my problem with him is he gives the ball away easy too many times, and we've been punished a few times from it.
Yes, yeah.
And Kluivert doesn't. He's more of a 10-ish who then floats wide at times. We don't really play with a 10.
No.
And I'm not sure where he goes. Like, if there's a plan and it works, great. But it just seems like buying someone because they're popular. And that's not what we do.
Okay. That's really interesting. I had initial thoughts about Kluivert as well, and I've had to dig in and see where we're at with it. Let me know what you think about this after after we get a bit of profiling on him, Mitch, and the chat. I think there's someone. I think someone's already commented, and apologies to guys in advance if I've missed your chat as well. But Aaron Kane, although Kluivert is quality for the money he would cost, I'd rather go for someone in Europe. That's why we have Paul Mitchell. Well, okay, hold on to that thought, Aaron. Hold on to that thought, because Mr. Kluivert may not be as expensive as initially thought. So, profile-wise, let's go for it. Justin Kluivert, striker profile. So his role is a versatile false nine, second striker. He also plays left wing forward. So he roams to create chances, not a traditional number 9, but thrives in the fluid system. So he's not traditional number 9 because he's very small, right? He's not really a target man. He's kind of primarily plays as an attacking midfielder who can play out on the left, or can play out on the right as well. He's bow-footed, which is one of his key strengths. So technical mastery, dribbling, precise finishing, which is where I think I'm already hinting towards comparisons to Harvey Barnes, and where the difference is, where Harvey Barnes is taller, athletic, more of a runner rather than a technical dribbler. We know how he plays a little bit. Hence why I think he hasn't been able to really challenge Gordon as much, because Gordon is those things, but even more in comparison to Barnes, in my opinion anyway. So he's got 11 goals so far this season, including a hat-trick against us. He's quick, he's agile, he's adept at exploiting gaps. We've learned all about that. And beating defenders one-on-one. And I think that's one of the key things, Mitch, is I think Eddie Howe, the recruitment team, are looking at in the future, and already we've experienced this, is Newcastle, when we're playing against the top teams, we're pretty much, going, toe-to-toe. Nobody's really playing a low block or going at each other, and that helps us. But when we're playing the teams that are set up in low block primarily, I know that Forest and others are a bit more of a, it's not even a low block sometimes. Sometimes I feel like it's a mid block. We get ourselves caught out. We can't quite break them down as well as we can. And when we've got a dribbler, whether it's a Kluivert or anybody else, you've got someone that's able to make something happen. So as quick, as agile as a dribbler, high energy pressing. You're going to get any more high energy than Bournemouth. Bolster's defense aligning with modern striker demands. Now, this is the physical aspect. He is 5'7", so it's a bit different to the profiles we've got. If you look at Barnes, Gordon, Murphy, well, Murphy's a little bit short, but Barnes, Gordon, all the guys we bought, Isak, obviously, these are guys that are 6'1", 6'2", 6'5", getting all, huge guys. So he's quite different to what we're used to. This is Mr. Kluivert's breakout season with Bournemouth. He's matured, obviously, since his Ajax days, where he's kind of seen as like a really scrawny, small guy. Where would he fit at Newcastle? So Eddie Howe's, we've got this 4-3-3 system especially when we're attacking. We've gone more into 4-4-2 out of possession. Complements Gordon and Isak with creativity, movement. So you spoke about a 10. I think this is where Newcastle are looking to progress. I don't know if you remember, Mitch, we were looking to buy Maddison like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And he is pretty much a 10. But we didn't get him over the line. Instead, we got Tonali. He chose obviously, Maddison chose Tottenham. So we see where things are at with that. Apologies, Spurs Kings. But where things are. But
we've got to be careful on the Spurs slander. We might
we
get
have
sacked.
to
Rather
be,
wrong.
exactly. But I mentioned that, Mitch, is because I think there's an evolution to what the team where Eddie Howe's heading, trying to put Newcastle to. I think Bruno Gomes kind of signifies that he's in a more advanced role, and obviously Tonali's in a number 6 role, and Bruno is very much our creator, but he doesn't have someone to rotate with and somebody to work with, to rotate with essentially. And I think Kluivert or someone of his profile suits that. Kluivert plays multiple places, obviously attacking mid, left wing, forward. So I actually see Kluivert mainly as a rotation player for Barnes as well. So he's in the 4-3-3, creativity, alternative to Wilson's physicality. So limitations, struggles against deep defenses. So that goes against everything else I just said earlier. Needing a target man. So they're saying it's in terms of being a target man. So you're not going to really send a direct ball over the top and stuff. Not over the top, but in a cross. It's not going to work for him. But Newcastle, we know we can smother teams. We can press the life and then force them back. And I think if you've got someone that's got technical qualities and dribbling ability, Kluivert is your man. Let me know what you think so far, Mitch. I'm gonna show a little bit of stats on FB Ref while you're talking before getting. Actually, yeah. I'll do that, and then I'll go to a couple clips.
I reckon as the style of player, I've ever so slightly changed my opinion after hearing all of that. The style of player seems right, but it's just the wrong side of the attack. So he's slightly more left-sided than right-sided. Mm-hmm. So say we did lose a Gordon, then maybe it would kind of work more if he was going to start off the left, but then Barnes is still in the same positions he's in now. And then if Isak does need a rotation, we've got a different option because Callum Wilson can't stay fit and Osuna's not quite ready to play through the middle as a false 9 if need be. But we kind of need that kind of profile, but they play from the right. Mm-hmm. Because it still leaves us short in the position that I feel like we need to improve the most. Because I get what you're saying about the formation evolution as well. I said probably in about September that I could see how trying to progress to having a rotating 6, which is now sort of what Tonali and Bruno do. But having someone like Kluivert as the third of that 3 that sort of plays in a 10 but not and drops into midfield when possible or drops wide, I don't think he fits that profile as well because he's not got the legs for it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, if we was going to buy someone to play that kind of role, we'd have to try and upgrade on Joe Linton, which is very hard to do because his work rate, it's like what Chelsea fans used to say about Kante. It's like having an extra player on the field.
Yeah.
He covers so much ground that the player that comes in for him has to be ridiculous at whatever they do to make it worthwhile.
So I think, Justin, I think he's a replacement for Barnes mainly, and I'll tell you why. So this is kind of stemming on the reports that we had from the newspaper via Mark Douglas, who I see as a tier 1 journalist for Newcastle. And as the chat always knows, he's the only journalist who's been able to get Paul Mitchell, had a full 1 hour and a half interview with Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell doesn't do interviews with anybody, apart from obviously the club reporters, because I think he's fallen out of some of the journalists in Newcastle on the back of them kind of, stoking the division between him and Eddie Howe. He hasn't forgiven them for that.
They were playing on that, weren't they?
Exactly. But Mr. Mark Douglas used wisdom and balance, and Paul Mitchell appreciated that and sat down and gave him an hour and a half long interview. So on the back of that context, Mark Douglas releases an article where essentially, as other journalists have said, Newcastle looking for 4 players, but they're also not resistant to, he used it how, reading between the lines type of lines they give. they're not resistant to clubs bidding for Harvey Barnes and Sean Longstaff. And I think those are the primary guys that Newcastle are looking to sell. Obviously, if you sell Barnes, you need to replace Barnes, but then you also need to, you don't just replace Barnes by buying another Barnes type of player. You need to replace Barnes with someone that's got some level of versatility. And as you can see here on transfermarket.com, but also some of the stuff that we talked about, primarily where where Justin Kluivert has been playing, attacking midfielder through the centre. So again, you got a little bit of Bruno Gomes, but he can also play on the left and the right, and he's actually both-footed. So one of his big things is in his profile is that he loves cutting in from either left or the right and being able to shoot. I don't know if you saw his goal against Brighton, for instance, an example of that. So he loves chopping in and doing that, which is the ideal thing that Newcastle, that we love to have. And I think also Eddie Howe, for instance, if you're looking at 4-4-2 out of possession, whether it's with an Isak or a Gordon leading the line, to have a Justin Kluivert in behind them and his ability to press coming from Bournemouth is a big, big thing. But also, like I mentioned earlier, it's the dribbling aspect. It's the ability to be able to take on a man and get past them as well. That's a big, big thing. Harvey Barnes hasn't been doing it. Harvey Barnes is a slightly different profile where he is, like I said, he's athletic, he's strong, he can do take-on, so he can take the ball from 0 to 10 meters and above. But he's really struggled, and he's a lot more specialized. So he's more of a left winger. We've seen him being put on the right wing. Like, it's not great, right? Whereas a Justin Kluivert really thrives in that kind of versatility. And this season, he's played 28 games. Justin Kluivert, 12 goals, 6 assists. That's really, really, really good in just under 2,000 minutes played. So he's got really, really good stats there, Kluivert. I'm gonna show, just let you get your feedback on that, Mitch. Whilst I'm gonna also bring the little bit of comparisons, for instance, between Justin Kluivert and Harvey Barnes. So I know you've heard that, Mitch. Let me know what you think of that so far. Before you just go there, there's a few folks. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that, Mitch, and then I'll get to the chat as well.
Yeah, cool. I kind of see what you're saying with the Barnes replacement thing, but I don't think it does much for improving the squad. I think that would kind of be one that if Barnes wanted to go and we could bring in Kluivert for similar or less money, it would make sense. Yeah, but I don't think it does anything to drastically change who we are now at the minute. It just doesn't. Okay. I can't see it moving us upwards.
It's not getting the adrenaline pumping.
No, it's not for me. And I don't like to beat down people's stats, but he's got 12 goals this season. He got the hat trick against us, which was great, and he got a hat trick of penalties in another game. So in his other 25 games, he's got 6 goals and 6 assists, and it's Jacob Murphy-esque if you look at it from that perspective.
Ah, okay. Well, that's an interesting take, and I think that adds layers of context to it. And there's a lot of folks in the chat. Guys, I'm going to get to the chat. I'm going to make the comparisons now with Justin Kluivert and Mr. Barnes. And why the rest of, like as I said earlier, why I'm leaning towards comparing him to Barnes than I am to Mr. Murphy, is because I think Barnes is the person that's one of the players that we have that is essentially Newcastle are open to selling. Yeah. And with Kluivert,
exactly, probably the most available player that doesn't play on a consistent basis.
Exactly. And I'm sure, you can still see him playing in the top half of the Premier League. You can still see him at Tottenham, for instance, and teams like that. Maybe even Nottingham Forest and others. So that's why I've put him up. But also because Kluivert likes to play on the left as well as being attacking midfielder. He can play on the right, but he likes to also play on the left. So these are the comparisons that I've got so far. And take into account what Mitch has said, obviously, 3 goals against us, a hat trick of penalties as well. So let's see how it goes. So, and this is per 90 minutes. So if you compare Barnes and Kluivert in terms of goals, Kluivert just slightly edges it, but you have to keep this in context. The context being before I go into all the stat stuff as well, is Kluivert has played nearly 2,300 minutes this season, whereas Barnes played 1,300 minutes, so already 1,000 more minutes as well. Kluivert has played, so reflecting his durability, and but also he hasn't got as much injuries as well. Kluivert's role for Bournemouth is different to Barnes's. So Kluivert is more of a focal attacker. We've experienced that in St. James's Park. Like him and Semenyo were absolutely terrorizing us, right? You know, Barnes doesn't play like that when he plays with us. He's very much a left wing forward. We've seen a little bit of an adjustment to that when we played against West Ham, I think, when he was a little bit more central, coming off left, which he did okay at. Obviously, he gave the assist as well. But primarily they have slightly different roles when we're talking about. So Mitch is right. When we're talking about stats, you have to have this type of context when we're talking about it. And form. This is, as mentioned earlier, this is Kluivert's breakout season. He's got goals. He's got assists. And at the moment, he is outshining Barnes with that. Obviously, Barnes has injuries, and obviously Barnes is playing. He's having to compete with Anthony Gordon, and Anthony Gordon is going to keep most players out in terms of this league. So as I mentioned, obviously Kluivert's got more goals than Barnes. Barnes has actually got slightly ahead in terms of assists per 90 than Kluivert, which goes back to what you're saying, Mitch, in terms of how effective is Kluivert in front of goal in comparison to Barnes. However, direct contributions to goals is Kluivert is seen as more impactful. Barnes obviously on kind of like 0.54, whereas Kluivert's on 0.58 to 0.65 in terms of contributions to goals in games, shots on target. Kluivert again is a lot more clinical than Barnes at the moment. He's got like 1.4, 1.6 in terms of shots on target. So every game is getting about 1.5 to 2 shots on target, whereas Barnes is getting at least one, but it's edgy. Key passes, Kluivert again slightly edges it on that. He's getting about 1.2 to 1.6, but it's very, very slight compared to Barnes. And dribbles completed, and this is, I think, if we're talking about why are Newcastle looking at Kluivert apart from the price as well, which we're going to talk about. Barnes is on the 0.9, so he's completing at least just about one dribble per 90, whereas Kluivert is completing anywhere between 1 to 2 fairly regularly beyond during that time. So it kind of indicates to me when we're talking about it is that if Newcastle are looking at adjusting Kluivert, they're looking for that kind of really dynamic dribbler, technical ability. So yes, Kluivert outperforms Harvey Barnes in goals, total contributions and shots on target and dribbling, kind of showcasing his efficiency and dynamism. But Barnes edges him on assists, and he kind of lags overall, hampered by his kind of the injuries that he's had. So we're keeping that in context. But Kluivert has the more overall superior impact than Barnes at the moment on Bournemouth. And this might be the reason why Newcastle see him as a potential upgrade. He's also been valued at, and I'll finish on this now, I'll see what the chat is saying and get your views, Mitch, is that he's been valued at £25 million.
Ooh.
He's been valued at £25 million. He's 25 years old. So he's about 2 to 3 years younger than Barnes as well. And he's got the more versatility. Like I said, he can play attacking midfield, left wing, right. He's both footed, so it gives a lot of flexibility, which is what I think they're looking at when they're looking at Kluivert. So what's your thoughts on that so far, Mitch? Let me get to the chat. Let me actually, while you're talking, I'm gonna before you do that, because maybe I got a Brazil scout. I got the YouTube clips. I got the highlights, guys. I've brought the whole thing with me. So yeah, I think the price, the age, where he seems to be at in terms of his own performance, Kluivert, is part of the reasons where Newcastle are looking at him. So let me get this up, and let's get this on. So he's been compared to Lucas Moura, Carvalho, Minamino. In the Brazil scout, I've got him compared to positions Cam, left wing. He's 5'7", 68 kilograms, grams. Goodness me. And he's got that composure on and off the ball. So let's see what he's got in terms of his technicality. I'm gonna go through the chats a little bit, but Mitch, give us your thoughts on him so far.
For the price of 25 mil, so say we got 35, maybe whatever we could get for Harvey Barnes, and we brought him in, and he played a similar role to Harvey Barnes, then it would be good, because that would give us a little bit more leeway with spending money elsewhere. But he just doesn't. I struggle to see why he would go for that. Because
who would go for that? When you say he,
Kluivert himself. I struggle to see why Kluivert would go for the move to come into a team that don't really play a way that fully suits where he wants to play, and he's not guaranteed to start games. Whereas he could go elsewhere and probably get those kind of guarantees in a system that suits him a little bit more. And I don't think he would be the player to actually change the way we play for.
Okay.
Like the Maddison thing. As much as I'm not a massive Maddison fan, don't think he's brilliant, but that type of 10, for me, would be the type of 10 you kind of tweak your system for. So you find in little bits of pockets of space, in the space between the midfield and the defence, to give him the ball so he can then create something and stuff like that. I think that's the type of play you'd change the way we'd play for. But I just don't. He's a good player. He's a really good player. If we played a 4-2-3-1 and this was the conversation we'd have in, I'd be like, yes, all over it, 100%. But I can't see why the fit would work for us from how we play, and then for him if he's Harvey Barnes' replacement.
Okay, so some really good take there. Let's have a few butchers on the clips, and we'll go to the chats and see what the chat are saying as well. So that's Mitch there. Not Mitch. It's not Mitch. That's Kluivert. That's Kluivert there receiving the ball in the central midfield, center of the park there. Lovely take, by the way. And it's that dribbling aspect I think that Newcastle are looking for, trying to bring the ball out from the back. It's this ability as well. He's grown in strength, by the way. He came as a scrawny kid, and this is a quote from Ajax. It's not just me saying that. He's actually bulked up a lot. And this is the part that Newcastle that they're looking for, is this ability to take on a man. As well. This is him picking up the ball on the right flank, now going into cutting in, and this is the part that he loves the most, and then cutting in again, and then putting the assist. And because he's both footed, I thought he was going to go to the left there, but he's gone onto his right. Now this is him on the left flank again, and because he's both footed, it's very difficult to see. Is he going to cross the ball? Is he going to go to the inside? Is he going to go to the outside? And he opens up the field like this, and this is part of the reason why is the unpredictability that I think part of the reason why Newcastle may be looking at him as well, being able to break down defenses. This is him causing us all sorts of trouble. This is him again. Was that Semenyo? I think.
Jesus, how many clips are against us?
Most of his goals are scored against us. This is him again. This is him picking up the ball from deep, and this is what Newcastle obviously yes, we're a transition team, but we're trying to evolve from being a transition team. Whilst we're doing that, we still need to have players that are able to take the ball on and carry it and show this level of ability. He draws a lot of fouls as well. Again, this is us. Goodness me. Someone just watched Newcastle Bournemouth and said, yeah, this is it. This is him again, picking up the ball on the left, cuts in, cross as well. He's providing that quality again on the left flank, this time on the left flank. So you can always see him in different clips, left flank, right flank. This is him scoring with his right foot this time. So kind of showing his versatility and his ability to be either way. Look at that lovely pass there for us. I watched that game as well. I think that was against Arsenal. Again against Newcastle. This time with his right foot. So it's that kind of versatility that they're looking for and what they're doing. So, chat, what are you guys saying? Mitch is unconvinced that necessarily Kluivert isn't the upgrade that we need, really. That we can possibly do a little bit better. But what's the chat saying? Wow, tons of chats. I don't know where I'm going to start. let's try and get to what you guys saying about Kluivert. Do you guys see him as an upgrade? Let's see. Goat Father, he is the perfect squad player. I agree with the guest. That's Mitch. Would he be happy playing on the bench? So in terms of the playing on the bench, I don't know what you think about this, Mitch, is because we've talked about this before. Whether it's a Kluivert or anybody else, every play, there are essentially players that want to play for ambitious clubs are going to have to compete and are going to have to sit on the bench. Kluivert would have a choice. You stick with a Bournemouth who may go into Europe this year, but then may get relegated the next year, type of situation. Whereas you go over with a Newcastle and you accept that there's players here that are better than the players that are in Bournemouth. But Newcastle are competing on all four fronts. We've proved that by getting to the League Cup final, previous years, getting to the quarterfinals of both competitions, and even getting to the final the previous year. So Newcastle are going to be competing in Europe, competing in the domestic front, as well as competing in the league. So there's going to be about 50 plus games in the league anyway. So whether you're Kluivert, for instance, you are going to be playing, starting maybe 15, 20 games, at least coming on the pitch, and 30 plus more others rotating constantly as well. So you're still playing, but you're also playing for bigger prizes, cups, and in Europe as well. And at times, being on the bench is part of the package.
Yeah,
you know, Liverpool do that all the time with the players that they have there. So if he wants to be playing all the time, if he's what you were saying, like being a starter, I don't know too many teams who are currently competing on those all four fronts. Your Man Cities, Liverpool, for instance, the Premier League. Even in Germany, is he going to get into the Bayern Munich squad first lineup? No, he's not. Bayern Leverkusen, he's still going to be on the bench there. You know, and in the league as well, Man City, Liverpool, he's not going to be starting for those teams. And he wouldn't be starting for Newcastle.
As much as this is probably going to sound weird, because they're like, as teams at the minute, they're better teams than us. But if I was a Kluivert, I would be looking at an Arsenal and a Liverpool if I wanted to play on the left as a more feasible way of getting to the first team.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where they're weakest. If he can play on the right and get the same output that he's getting for Bournemouth this season, then have at it. I would 100% take him. If he can play in that right wing forward, right wing slot and give the same output as we've seen from the clips that he pops up in various positions and still has decent delivery and stuff like that. If he can do that from the right, then great. Because it would be a great squad option. And I don't mean a squad option off the bench. It would mean we could start with a Gordon one side, a Kluivert the other side. They could switch. Both of them could potentially pop into the middle briefly. If Isak needs a rest, it gives us Murphy on the right, Kluivert on the left, maybe Gordon through the middle. Mm-hmm. It's great in that respect, but I feel like he would have to predominantly play on the right. It's whether he wants to do that and if he can give us the same output from there.
I love that. And you've got a lot of folks also agreeing with you there as well. I see people saying, let me see. There's tons of, gosh. And I've got so many players I want to show. We'll see what we can do. Right. Aaron Kainth, the only player with similar qualities, Kluivert, in terms of dribbling abilities and being able to play on the right is Rayan Cherki. Yeah, from Lyon.
Cherki is a bit more unique than Kluivert, I think. He's in that, not similar level, he's in that Hazard, Ben Arthur dribbling category.
Yeah, he's a special talent. Pizza from NUFC, can't wait to see the lineup at the start of this next season. Bet it's unreal. Mitchell and Eddie will get it right. Eddie will have his eye on who he needs. I agree. I'm fair. Whenever I think of us going into the market and buying players, I'm very, very calm about it. Like when it comes to that. Have I read this one? Davey Eddie, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Davey Eddie, Kluivert is doing it in the Premiership. That's a big plus. Yep, I agree. I certainly would welcome him to the Toon. Looked terrific against us. He did, and most of the clips are there against us as well. Aaron Cape, Kluivert is quality, but would rather have a proper left-footed right winger and bring in a Sanusi and give him minutes where we can, important, so we don't hamper our youth players' development. That's a perfect segue, speaking of right wingers, because I've got one lined up.
Yeah, just before we move on, that left-footed right winger, I actually slightly disagree with that. I feel like it makes us, unless Tino can up his output from right back, I think having a right-footed right winger is perfect for us because it makes us a little bit harder to play against. Because you can't play narrow. Because if a right foot is on the right, you can take a touch and whip it in first time, and there's no way the left back's getting out there. And I think that makes us stretch the pitch a bit more. I think we'll keep the right footer on the right for that reason.
Right. So you kind of want it more traditional, like a natural right footer on the right side and the left footer on the left side, or you want a mixture of type of thing?
No. A right footer on the left is perfect for us because we've got Lewis Hall that overlaps, and his delivery is class. It's like having Trippier but younger on the left-hand side. But Tino, playing from right back, his delivery isn't as good. So
right.
It works well having someone on the right who's right-footed, who can go down the line with it. So my perfect pick would be the other guy from Bournemouth. It would be Semenyo.
Ah, okay. Yes. And he has been linked.
He can go both ways. He can cut in and he can go on the outside, and it makes us very unpredictable from that side.
All right. Well, excellent. Speaking of right wingers, and it's not Semenyo, unfortunately. Sorry. Francisco Trincao has been linked to us again from the newspaper. This is from Mark Douglas. That Newcastle are essentially monitoring the right wing forward. Now, I've mentioned him before on the program, and this is via Edit Kev. For the folks that know him, he's like a stats guy, analyst, really, excellent kind. In my opinion, really kind of excellent football analyst. Now, who is Mr. Francisco Trincao? Let me get I've got so many screens open. I'm like fuzzing around everywhere. I don't know if you're familiar with the gentleman, Francisco Trincao, Mitch. I've only seen him play once or twice. He previously played for Wolves actually at one point as well. He's currently playing with so his parent club is Barcelona, but he was loaned out to Sporting Lisbon. So essentially, Francisco Trincao, right wing forward or right winger, role is dynamic winger, right-sided attacker, excels as a creative forward with goal-scoring flair. So he's having a really, really good season so far. It's technically brilliant, very silky dribbling, sharp finishing. He's got 30. So he's playing in obviously Sporting Lisbon in the Portuguese league. Some people would already have attacks on that because obviously the Portuguese league is not as good as the Premiership. So we'll take that into context. So he's got 13 goals, 7 assists. At the moment, he's two-footed as well, though he prefers his left foot, hence why he's on the right, cutting in. And he's lethal in one-on-ones, has vision and passing, unlocks defenses, tireless work rate. And I think, he's 6 foot. I think he's a bit taller than that from what I've seen. But they've got him at 6 foot. He's very lean, very agile, has speed and strength, although he's not really dominant. So he's having, like I said, he's having a really good season. He's also been, obviously, he's a Portuguese man, has played at, I think, every level for the Portuguese side, apart from the senior squad. Let me just double check that, because I think I do have that on the transfer market, but he's more or less played at every level. I think he is playing for the Portuguese squad as well. So where would he fit for Newcastle? So he's looking at, could elevate Howe's versatility, so he can play across the front three. So, again, kind of rotating or working with Gordon, Barnes, and obviously Murphy as well, but primarily that right side as well. The one inconsistency that he has is at the elite level. So why aren't Barcelona keeping him, for instance? What happened when he was at Wolves? I would say my one thing I would say before actually speaking about that is at Wolves is that he was I think he was very much in his early 20s there, or even like 1918, 1920. Let me see if I can find that. But there's always room for people growing. And I also keep in mind your Anthony Gordons, your Lewis Halls, your Livramentos. You know, these guys didn't hit the ground running at Newcastle. You know, some of them 6 months, a year before we really saw them, become who they are, essentially. Let me get an early take from you, Mitch, and the chat as well. Have you heard of him before? What's your kind of initial thoughts on him?
saw the link, and I've done a little bit of what I like to call Dennis Wise scouting from back in the day. Straight onto YouTube, watching a few clips, see what he looks like. There's a lot that I like about him. He looks a very good technical player, and he seems to fit like what Eddie Howe likes. He's a tall lad, he's quick, and the only thing that would worry me is he looks a little bit lightweight. He looks like he's, as much as we do bed players into the squad, it looks like it'd take a while for him to be Premier League ready. The Wolves thing doesn't worry me that much. He was 21, maybe 22 at the time.
Let me see. Yeah, go on.
Coming over from, well, he was at Barca at the time, but coming over
2021. 2021, yeah.
Yeah, so coming over from not long moving to Barca into the Premier League, it was going to be tough, and Wolves weren't turning up trees.
No.
It's just whether he is lightweight, whether he can bring it over here and do what he's been doing. Now, his stats are amazing, but again, that doesn't really tell the full story. It could just be the team. He could come into the Newcastle team and go bang and click into it. He looks a little bit like a slightly taller Miguel Almiron, but with less work weight.
I was hoping you'd say Cole Palmer, but
he's not as. I wouldn't say as, like, Cole Palmer's a weird one, yeah, because he reminds me of like a hybrid. He's a little bit like Trincao, but if Trincao was then merged with Mesut Ozil. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
You put him out wide and he has got a little trick in him, and he's got a little bit of pace about him to get away from his man. But then Cole Palmer, when he's in the 10 and he's putting passes through, he looks very Ozil to me. His pass vision, his vision for the pass and the weight of pass when he's on form is amazing. No,
I see what you're saying, definitely. So you can see here. Can you see the screen? I want to make sure everyone can see it. So this is him this is a bit of his background. Obviously, Portuguese lad, lots of Portuguese clubs when he's obviously really started from 2009 to now. Before then getting to SC Braga. It's from Braga where he went to Barcelona for 16 million. So he was really seen as like one of those talents there. It was during that time of João Felix and all those guys there. And so he kind of went like wandering essentially. Got lost in the system a little bit before going to Wolves, and then obviously they had an option to buy him. They didn't use that option. There's various reasons for that. They've highlighted inconsistencies, but maybe they just didn't want to pay. We don't know. Anyway, he went back to Barcelona and then went to Sporting Lisbon, and that's when things have really, really taken off for Mr. Trincao. As you guys can see here, 26 matches this season. In Portuguese league, he's played over just 2,200 minutes. So he's practically played most of their games, obviously. 26 games, 8 goals, 12 assists. So that's 20 goal contributions in 26 games. This is an interesting part as well about him right now, is why Newcastle are looking for him as well. His contract runs out in 2026. So he's gonna have a year left on his contract. There is some interesting stuff surrounding it. So when I looked at him up 6 months ago, and by Leverkusen were looking at him, and I can also see some links to Man United at the moment as well. So although he is valued at 27 million on euros on transfermarket.com, because he's got a year left on his contract, and even 6 months ago, Bayern Leverkusen were looking to buy him for about £15 million. So you're looking at maybe 10 to 50 million pounds for him. The complication is obviously that Barcelona do have a sell-on fee for him, which is 50%, really, really high. So they're going to want to get as much as they can for it, but the guy's got a year left. So it's either get something or get nothing. And obviously it will also depend on the competition they have. So there's that. He is primarily a right winger who can play on the left, and obviously as a second striker as well. And he's been playing for in the senior Portuguese squad since 2020. So he's played 9 matches for them, but he looks like he's played at most levels as well, from the under 17s and up. So he's got really, really, really good pedigree. I want to show his FB stats. So this is the stats that he's got in the last 365 days. The context, obviously, for people to know in terms of this league difference. I get it. He's obviously playing in Portugal. His role at so you're going to see some stats. So his role at Lisbon, yes, he's a right wing forward, but he's also very much like a second striker at times for them as well. So you're going to see, for instance, certain statistics where his dispossession is very, very high. But that's because he takes a lot of risks with the ball as well, rather than it being a situation where he's not technically good. So let me show you what I mean here. Let me show you guys. You can see. Yes, you can. So let me get it on. So these are the stats in last. So on FB Ref, they've compared him to Amari Hutchinson, which is interesting. That's one of the names I can recognize. And number 3 here, John McGinn. That's interesting because I'm going to take that because of the maybe some of the take-ons and carry statistics as well as the work rate. So it's interesting. He's like a blend between an Amari Hutchinson and a John McGinn. But let me just see. Let me get it here. So this is per 90. Right. So like I said, his dispossession stats are sky high. When it says 99 percentile, it means that he's at the highest level for being dispossessed, right? So the number of times he loses the ball or control over the ball. As I mentioned, this makes it look like he's got no technical ability and stuff like that. It's not true. It's the opposite way around. He takes on a very risk role in terms of, hence why, and we know that because he's got 20 goals and assists out of 26 from 26 games. So part of his main thing is taking risks with the ball, whether it's passing, whether it's dribbling, and doing all those other things as well. So obviously getting penalty kicks as well, very high on that. So his missed controls are very, very high as well. But then if you look at, for instance, fouls drawn, 96 percentile, very, very, very high. Percentages of dribble of and this goes towards dribblers tackle divided by a number of attempts. So it also shows his work rate. So he actually works very, very hard to tackle tackle players and be part of the kind of the defensive role as well for his club. He loses a lot of aerial duels. For a guy that's 6 foot something. That's something to look at. But then here's where the other thing gets a little bit better, which is completed dead ball passes. So he's really good at set pieces, free kicks, corner kicks, passes. Again, this passes blocked is very, very high. Again, indicating that he's the guy that's often the guy that's having to make things happen. Kind of like a Bruno Fernandes for Man United. I don't know if you heard, Mitch, for instance, if you ever heard Man United fans talking about Bruno Fernandes, some are really angry because he never retains the ball. He always they say they call it grenade football. But at the same time, if you look at his goals and assists, there's no midfielder like him for them. Now, I'm not saying that Trincao is Bruno Fernandes. I'm just saying that I'm trying to give an example of a type of player that is in a position where he's told, go and take risks with the ball, go and make things happen. So if you compare him to a Jacob Murphy, which we're going to do in a moment, it's a very different role to a Jacob Murphy who can be a little bit risk averse as well. Yeah. High in the challenges lost, again, unsuccessful attempts, but you get that obviously if you're the guy that's pressing, having to press and win the ball up high, which is not unusual. And then again, tackles really, really high, challenges lost really, really high. pass completions in the 72 percentile. So this lets me know, listen, and people can interpret it how they see it, but I'm just kind of speaking about his role for the team. Is someone that's meant to be second striker to a right wing forward. You're meant to make things happen, and we know that because of the goals and assists that he has made for the team so far. So before I get him before we get on show some of the clips on Mr. Trincao, let me get to the chat, and then I'll get some of your takes on him, Mitch, as well. We've got Davey Eddie spoke about Kluivert. Kluivert is very versatile, as Philip said. These type of players are invaluable. I do agree on that, and I think we're going to need a versatility if we're going to have a sustainable, a robust squad, especially one that's competing on all four fronts. Unea, good to see you, sir. God bless you. He can cover multiple roles, plus technically better than two of our wingers. I think it's talking about Kluivert there. I think you are, or maybe, yeah, it must be talking about Kluivert. Correct me if I'm wrong. Callum, good to see you, sir. Mark Douglas is top. He is. I see him as a tier 1 journalist. Articles are always top drawer regarding us. They are, and balanced as well. Unea, he reminds me of Sancho, good in mainland Europe, diabolical in the Prem. Okay, so that's that's for Trincao. All right, and Trincao is not so good, bro. He's not so good, bruv. I'm a Barca fan. Stop making. Yes, okay. That is from a Barca fan. That's his take on it as well. Mitch, what's your take on Mr. Trincao so far, from what you've heard, from what you've seen on him?
I'm looking at the stats from this season for Sporting. He looks his output is a lot better than I would have expected to be from what the clips that I watched, to be honest. And you mentioned a player along the way. His name's gone from my head now. He's been on loan at Chelsea a couple of João Felix.
João Felix, yeah.
That's kind of perfect to what now you've said it. He's like a quicker, trickier, slightly taller João Felix. That's what he looks like.
Yeah.
But again, he looks, if he can bring it here and deal with the physicality, he would be a fantastic player, João Felix. And I think Trincao could be in that same bracket. If he can cope with the physicality of the league, then he could be great.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that as well. And the Barcelona fan probably agrees. So let's compare him to Mr. Murphy. But can you guys? I'm always worried that people can't see my screen.
No, yeah, we got it.
Yeah, so before I compare him to Murphy, it's always keeping it in context. They do play in different leagues, obviously Premier League and Portuguese League. Their roles are different, whereas Murphy is obviously very much a right winger / right wing forward, but mainly a right winger who has defensive duties as well. So it's quite different to a Trincao, who is essentially a striker, supporting striker, although he's down as a right wing forward as well. His role is a little bit different to Murphy's, where he's brought on to make things happen. So you will see him having a lot more higher goals and assists and in those type of areas as well, which kind of maybe is an indicator to where maybe Newcastle are looking at. So direct comparisons. Comparisons. So direct contributions, Trincao, 13 goals, 7 assists, 20 so far this season, comparison to Mr. Murphy's, who's not bad. He's at 12, 4 goals and 8 assists. And so Murphy has got one more assist than Trincao. But Trincao kind of edges it. Efficiency. So Trincao has 1 contribution per every 100 games, whether that's goals and assists. Per 100 minutes. I said games. Per every 100 minutes. Murphy's 166 minutes. So Trincao is a lot more efficient than Murphy. Creativity. Trincao makes 50 to 60 passes per game, whereas Murphy's on 30 to 40, so is a little bit more moderate. So Trincao excels in chance creation. So that's shot creating action. So Trincao the creativity is shot creation action. So far this season, not in one game, in the season, he's created 50 to 60 shot creation passes for others. So he makes a pass and then someone's able to shoot from it. So 50 to 60, whereas Murphy's 30 to 40. Right, so you can see, there's a difference in terms of the creativity side of things. Dribbling, Trincao is very high risk. and he's frequently dispossessed because of that. I think that would be slightly adjusted playing for Newcastle, where you would have to retain the ball at some points as well. But with his technical ability, it's not a problem. Murphy is lower risk. Like, we know Murphy, right? I think you talked about it, Mitch, where you said, he does lose the ball. He can lose the ball a little bit more. It's very, so Trincao is very much more kind of kind of leads that side of things. Defensive work, Trincao presses really well. So although he has less tackles on the data, Murphy has about 1.2, so he's a little bit more. I missed the data there, but I think Murphy leads that. So Murphy is a little bit more stronger defensively than a Trincao. So in conclusion, Trincao outperforms Murphy this season in goals, in efficiency, in creativity, and that's a reflection of his role for Sporting Lisbon. Murphy holds his own with obviously assist and reliability, fitting into our system as it is currently. So, but he lacks Trincao's flair and his output. Yeah. So the gap highlights is why Newcastle are looking at Trincao. It's trying to make that difference. It's trying to get that edge as well. So he's very much seen as an upgrade in the lot of quarters, in the lot of metrics as well. So let me get Trincao on the screen. Let me get the Dennis Wise on. Let me get the Dennis Wise YouTube on, and we'll have a little. You guys will be able to see Trincao a little bit. When I saw Trincao, it was in Europe. I forgot the team they were playing. I forgot their name. I think it's a German. No, it's an Austrian team, Sturm Graz. I think it was Sturm Graz to see him play as well. And he does hug the. Not hug the touch. He's very much a right wing forward. So in that game he was very much inside, then going outside rather than outside going inside type of player, and taking up central positions as well a lot more often. But also, what's their name? Sporting are a possession in that game, especially. They were very much a possession-based team, so that gave him the ability to be able to kind of go into the half spaces a lot more. And I did actually see his. So I also saw him. He retained the ball a lot more, but that also gave him license to. This is why I think his dribbling, him losing the ball is so high, because I think they keep the ball really, really well. But then when they need to make things happen, he's the guy they go to in order to do that. So let me flick this on, and we'll see a little bit about what he's about. Mitch, can you see that?
Yeah, got it.
All right. So this is from 360. I usually like Brazil Scout, but
yeah, because they give you I like the start of the Brazil Scout videos gives you a nice little breakdown before you.
Yeah, because they. Oh, you said, now that you said it. Now that you said it, let me see if I can get it, because I was about to say because they compared him to when they did it. They compared. Oh yes, they got it
straight up.
Yeah, and I think I've watched it before. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah, we got that.
Right, so yes, this is where I got it from. Mitch, this is where I got it from. Similar players: Cole Palmer, Kulusevski. Flair, dribbling, agility, shots, key passes, crosses, acceleration, creativity. It's obviously 20 right wing, right mid, left wing, 6 foot, 76 kg. So he's a tall guy. He's a big guy. So if people are looking for a profile, and I think this is the type of profile that Newcastle are looking at in terms of like tall, athletic, really good on the ball, technical ability. I think they're looking at this type. And this is what Edit Kev, the reason why I know about Trincao 6, 7, 8 months ago is because of Edit Kev. When you compare the players, the profiles of Anthony Gordon, think of an Anthony Gordon, but on the right side and a little bit more dribbly, I think is what Newcastle are looking for. So this is Mr. Trincao here for Sporting Lisbon. He's celebrating a lot of goals there. So this is that lovely first touch. Take on, turns, pass, move. This is exactly what you see him right at the edge. So you see that point there? This is why he loses the ball so much, because he's put into these areas, right in front of the team. So he's playing against low blocks. This is Portugal. It's these type of players there. You can see the teams, a lot of teams set up in the real low blocks. Great goal there, by the way. So they take up low blocks against them. So he's having to, a lot of these clips is like there's like 4 or 5 players ahead of him. You see that just there, Mitch, yeah? You see that?
Yeah, he's the guy following up though, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. But that would be classed as him being dispossessed.
No, but he's the guy that scores. Is Trincao not the 17? That's Trincao there, I think.
My apologies. Yeah, I'm blind, guys. Sorry. He is, but he is exactly. But he also takes up those positions as well, where he's having to make things happen. And you can see in Portugal, there's always like 5 or 6 players ahead of him, and he's having to thread the needle. And there's him carrying the ball there, making things happen. 1++2, and this time it's worked. Do you get me? This time there's some. So they're having to score these type of goals. Again, picking it up. Really good dribbling. Again, laying it off. Just outside the box there. Trying to make things happen.
The video I watched must have been a little bit older than this, because I really like the look of this guy now.
He looks he's big,
like the look of this guy now, yeah.
I've got adverts, great. You know what? I need to get this. I need to pay for
You need to get that YouTube premium.
That YouTube premium. Look at that. Lovely take. Lovely first touch.
He looks like
first touch again. Boom! Goodness gracious. Sorry, go on.
He looks a bit like an Anthony Gordon mirror, but with better striking technique.
Better striking, technical ability. This is him driving, pushing. Boom.
Not even just striking technique. Do you know, like pass appreciation and appreciation of the ball and the power you've got to put into it when you do it. Like, so his layup be a decent weight, and when he's striking the ball, he strikes it cleaner. It's just, maybe it's because he's a lefty. Lefties are just a little bit more cultured.
He's both footed, but like you said, he prefers his left, but they've got him down as both footed. But you can see why Brazil scout have compared him to a Cole Palmer and Kulusevski. It's because he's got that height, he's got that athleticism, but with it, there's a lot of technicality there.
Yeah, he's got a lot of. He's like silky. He's not like, you wouldn't call him. I would call him more of a silky dribbler than a flair dribbler. That's the maximum flair. The maximum was always flair. This guy's he's just silky with it. I like it. I like the look of him.
Really, really good. And I think his role for Newcastle a little bit different. I don't see his possession rate being that high, if that makes sense. I don't think he's going to be called upon to get past 4 or 5 players every time, for instance. I don't think that's the way we play is. We can be so high pressing, so high up the field. And I think if anything,
we rush teams. So if we're like attacking in one area, we'll get 3 or 4 players around that player to make different runs. So he won't be left on his own so often.
No, exactly. And I think if anything, because he helps us to also not just be a transition team, but helps us to evolve where we're like a hybrid between a possession based and a transition team, because it's not every time is hell for level. We can't do that. We just run out of legs. And when we're playing in 4 competitions, you need players like him who can hold the ball. If you got him and Bruno playing next to each other, no one's getting the ball. No one's getting the ball.
Alan made a great point. Him and Isak on some of the link up little one
crazy
around the box could be mad.
Crazy. 4-4-2 out of possession. Him in a supporting striker role behind Isak is golden.
It gives you that fluidity as well, because if, say, we play the same system we play now on the 4-4-2 out of possession, it doesn't always have to be the same one staying with Isak. Gordon could stay. Trincao could stay. It makes us a little bit more adaptable as well.
Exactly.
Weirdly, it also falls a little bit more back into the Kluivert conversation, because if you've got a Trincao who might not track as much as Murphy, you then might want to play Tonali and Bruno as a double pivot, which then allows you with someone just to play just in front of him.
Well, I'll even say that because we saw the stats in terms of like he's very, very high in tackling other dribblers, like he's an 88 percentile. So that signals to me that his work rate is pretty high as well. So that's what makes him so good. And the price is going to be very good. You're looking at maybe 15 to 20 million pounds, depending on the competition. Because obviously, if Man United join in, if Tottenham join in, it's going to get a little bit higher. But he's in the final year of his contract. And Leverkusen were looking to pay 15 million pounds for him 6 months ago. So
we've got, if that's the price, that it sounds and looks like a no-brainer to me.
No,
it's a risk. It might be ever so slightly risky because the transition, and he's like not done well at Barca. He was with Wolves, but he was quite young. But even if we sign him for 15 mil and sell him for 10 in 2 years, what damage has that done?
No, exactly. And if you're him, I'm sure you're thinking, Premier League. I'm ready to make a. I'm looking to show them who I really am.
Yeah,
and I think I can do it in this Newcastle team. So let's get to the chats. I knew I'd run out of time because I wanted to show the defensive side as well, so there's going to be a part 2. Obviously, Newcastle have been linked to Nathan Collins. They've been linked to Dejan Huijsen as well. So there's a big thing about that. So but I'm not to be able to give these guys justice. I won't be able to do it. I won't be able to do it in tonight's show. So guys, let me know. Probably next week, Tuesday, I will do a part 2. Now focus on the defenses, unless the journalists decide to outdo each other again and say, hey, if Mark Douglas released something today, then Luke Edwards was released something today. You know how it goes. So let's see what the chat's saying. What do you guys think of Trincao? Oh, Barcelona doesn't like him very well. Stop making the sense doesn't like him, but fair play to you. You got Lamine Yamal. So yeah. I understand where you're coming from. Adrian Pickett, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Whether it's Trincao or someone else, that profile, high-tech dribbler, playmaker is certainly something I will squat. Yes. Whether it's Trincao or not, it's the profile. The profile of the player, I think when I was looking at right-wing forwards in the January transfer window, was really focusing on the guys that had the same profile as a Cole Palmer and a Kulusevski. That type of guy on the right side.
That's the key. Creativity
will be absolutely amazing for us. Unaya, does he have the dog in him? I think he does. I think he does. But there's one thing in terms of having that in. I think he does. If I was him, I think his next move will let us know that. But I think he does. And there's a reason why Newcastle are looking at him, in my opinion. If he didn't, I don't think Eddie Howe, we know Eddie Howe is not looking at players that don't have the grit to do that.
We're very good at finding them.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Unaya, couldn't agree more, Adrian. I think that's with the around Trincao. Adrian Pickett, especially for a change in style, tempo for European nights. And we're going to have people that help us to control that. You can't control, and that it's going to be technical players that can do that. It's going to be, Bruno can't do it by himself. Bruno, Tonali, you need additions to that. Bruno, Tonali, Trincao, players that are good on the ball is going to be very important. I couldn't agree with you more. Aaron Kempf, think Eddie really likes Tyler Diblin. I wouldn't be surprised if we get him.
Love Tyler Diblin personally.
Yeah.
Love Tyler Diblin. And
he has a similar sort of profile, tall, athletic, dribbler as well. A bit cautious about him off the ball. And he seems like a moody 18-year-old. Exactly. Meta Football, good to see you, sir. Congrats on winning the cup. Thank you. Adrian Pickett, plus with Trincao. Excuse me, plus, here we go, sorry. Plus with Trincao's hair on one side and Gordon's hair on the other. We land a massive L'Oreal deal. Yeah, that's a good one.
After the Ginola days.
Good thinking. Aaron Kane, Trincao combining with Isak. 1-2 1-2 touches and patterns could be great against low block. It'll be insane. And that's what I think they're looking at, in my opinion. I think you guys are talking amongst yourselves. Good. Meta Football, Dean Huijsen, pronounced house with an, Dean Hausen. Dean Hausen. Thank you, Meta Football. It's good. Now I have to remember that. Dean Hausen. Love that. And finally, Davey Eddie, not really too sure on Trincao. I knew a bit about I know a bit more about Kluivert, but if we bring him in, we trust the scouting network, and that's exactly it. I have, with our track record so far in terms of the players that we brought in, where our midfield is the envy of the Premier League, you know, and our forward line. It's almost like, I don't know if you guys watch what do you call it? The Avengers, the Thanos. Literally, we've got 2 rings, and we're just one away from like completing and destroying the world. And once we get that person over the line, then our forward line, it's almost like our back line as well. We just need someone to join Botman together with Hall and Livramento, and it's almost complete there. But folks, like I said, I knew I wouldn't be able to get to the defensive players that we've been linked to, but we have had a fantastic time here with Mitch and you guys. The chat has been off the Richter scale, as well as obviously the engagement of everybody that's coming in. We got to talk about, we got to see the sports talk, team talk, I forgot the name of this channel, with Simon Jordan and Jim White and all those guys talking about Newcastle, about our League Cup. Will our momentum, we went from that talking about the momentum. Will the League Cup be, spark our momentum to get past and get to the Champions League, or are we going to fizzle out? I think Mitch and I think a lot of the chat agree that no, I think this is going to spark us to really push forward, to really go for it. I couldn't agree more with that. And then obviously we then talked about some of the 4 players that we've been linked to as of today. Hence why I had so many players to look at. We had obviously Mr. Justin Kluivert, the son of Patrick Kluivert. I didn't even mention that. But then if you look, actually, there's also, if you look at his genealogy, there's his brothers, his granddad, they're all footballers as well. So we talked about Justin Kluivert, compared him to Mr. Barnes as well. We've got to see Mr. Trincao, who was also linked to us as well. Looks a lot more promising, looks a really, really good player. I think we've got the thumbs up from Mitch on that one. And a lot of the players in the chat, apart from the Barcelona fans saying, no, don't do it, guys. Don't do it. But Mitch, it's been absolutely incredible having you on here, and really, really enjoyed it. Let the folks know where they can find you, and if you've got any final comments, do let the chat know.
Firstly, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on. Fantastic show. Loved every minute of it. You can find me either on the Where the Owl Sleep, Sunday evenings, 9 p.m, or Spurs Kings TV, the Monday pitch, 9:30 every Monday evening. But again, Philip, thank you very much, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
likewise, and hopefully we can get you back on.
Really
good. Maybe join us for the part 2 of the transfers as well, so we can finish the other half of it. It'll be really, really good to have you. Chat, you guys have been absolutely incredible as always. And like I always say, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here. And I'm always, always grateful. I hope you guys are having a great week. Make sure you finish off your evening very well. And as always, folks, make sure you look after each other. And God bless, folks.